going to call this meeting of the Code Enforcement Special Magistrate to order. My name is Melanie Chase, and what I'm going to do is just go over briefly the procedural, the way that this will work, just so that everyone is on the same page. The hearings that we're going to have here today are evidentiary hearings, which means that you have the opportunity to present testimony and evidence. This will be the first time that I've heard anything at all about the cases that are that we're discussing today. So be sure when you come to the podium, be sure to tell me everything that you want me to know about your case. I want to hear everything that you have to say. The City of Oviedo has the burden of proof in this matter, so they will go first. They will present their case, and anyone on the other side has the opportunity to cross-examine any of the witnesses for the city, and the city likewise has the opportunity to cross-examine anyone testifying as a property owner. All of the testimony that will be offered today will be given under oath. So in just a moment, I'll swear in everyone that will be offering any testimony today. If you do intend to testify, when you step to the podium, if you would please state your name clearly for the record, because these proceedings are being recorded. If you present any evidence, anything like a picture or anything that you want me to see, that becomes part of the record, so that has to stay here with us today. So if you want to use anything in furtherance of your case, just be aware that that has to be left with us here today, so it can be part of the record. And then following the presentations of both sides, then I will make a decision, and I'll let you know what that is. And then following the hearing today, I'll enter an order, and that will be mailed out to all the parties. So, with having said that, if you intend to testify today, if you would please stand to be sworn in. Thank you. If you would raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you shall give today will be the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Did you both answer? I'm sorry, gentlemen. You answered yes?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay. We can discuss it when you get to the case.
I'm here to
Okay. The property owner. Okay. Okay. All right. Then can we, Mr. O'Rourke, can we call the case for which we have witnesses first, so that they don't have to wait? Would that be all right? Are we out of order? Not out. That didn't sound right. I mean, out of chronological order. You let me know which one we're going to do first.
Before we get started, Your Honor, my name is Sean O'Rourke, Code Enforcement Manager for the City of Oviedo, and with your permission, I would like to add an item to the agenda.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, Mr. O'Rourke. I think we're having technical issues.
With your permission, Your Honor, I'd like to add an agenda item.
Is it noticed?
Yes. It's going to be a dismissal.
Oh, okay. Is it a case that's on? It's not on this?
No, it's not currently on this agenda. It was on the previous agenda and was continued to a date uncertain.
Okay.
We'd like to add it to today.
Last month when we
Yes.
did those? Okay.
It was case CE 13-001483 for the Oviedo Medical Center at 1000 West Broadway.
And your request is?
We're going to request that the case be dismissed. It was continued to a date uncertain.
Right.
And the fire marshal contacted us yesterday, said everything's in compliance, and she's requesting that the case be dismissed. So on her behalf, I'm requesting that that case be dismissed.
I would. Okay. Notice issues always worry me, but if it's a voluntary dismissal by the city, then that
yes. We had proper notice for the last hearing,
right.
And then we continued it to a date uncertain.
Okay.
And I didn't find out from her yesterday that she wanted to just dismiss it.
Okay. Then I'll handle that paperwork and then after this.
Okay.
After this. So I'm ready for the first.
All right, again, Your Honor, my name is Sean O'Rourke, Code Enforcement Manager for the City of Oviedo. This is case CE 13-001833 for Tony and Mo Service Incorporated at 590 Geneva Drive, Oviedo, Florida. The case is for violations of Section 1.5 of the Land Development Code, no use or subdivision of land or building except in conformity with the Land Development Code, and Section 3.3 Development Orders, subsection A, site development orders, and number 1, general, that the site development orders are required. The generic violation is for parking multiple U-Haul vehicles on the property. And Your Honor, before I start with the items for the exhibits, I would just like to do a little background and history on the property and how we got to this point. Several years ago, the city issued a business tax receipt for this property for U-Hauls. Business tax receipts per the city, the state statute, and Attorney General opinions are non-regulatory. The city zoning business tax receipt office decided that 4 U-Hauls would be allowed. That was a number that they came up with based on parking and some manipulations, and they put that condition on the business tax receipt. There were up to 12 to 15 U-Hauls on the property. In the past months, code enforcement was called. We went out there. We did our inspections. We actually had the case scheduled to come before the magistrate at the August hearing. The zoning and planning division, our requirements for correction were to obtain a site development order. Planning and zoning was not on board at that time. The property continued to have more than 4 vehicles, U-Haul vehicles on the property. We met with the city manager and council and planning and zoning and came to the conclusion that a site development order was the appropriate course of action because the business tax receipt was non-regulatory and that there needed to be some method of enforcement. So we did not bring the case last month, but we are bringing the case this month. And again, while there is a business tax receipt for U-Hauls and there was a conveyed number of 4, those are non-binding and non-regulatory, and the regulatory method of controlling that is through a site development order. So with that, Your Honor, I will begin the presentation of the evidentiary
Can we talk about that for just a minute?
Sure.
So was there a development order originally issued when this
No,
property?
the property is non-conforming. That was what came up. The property is non-conforming because the city only allows gas station convenience stores at specified locations that are listed. The intersection that they're not, it's actually a tri-section, not an intersection, was not listed. It's not a listed location that they're allowed to be at, but they were there before the code was adopted, so they are non-conforming use. And obviously, you can't increase, permitted for the convenience store gas station, but with a non-conformity, you can't increase the use. So
tell me again where the number 4 came from? 'Cause that's
the number 4 came from the planning and zoning department. They looked at parking requirements based on square footage and determined that the number of parking spaces existing was 4 greater than what was needed for the existing business of a convenience store gas station, and said that, conveyed to the property owner that they would issue a business tax receipt for allowing 4 vehicles to park there, because those were excess parking spaces.
So the city is distinguishing between their use as a convenience store versus having the U-Hauls parked there? That's
The
considered-
U-Hauls is a separate business. They have a separate business tax receipt for that.
Okay. I'll just tell you that it seems like we're coming in after that, they've already had a tax receipt and coming up with a number that, is that codified anywhere where the square footage of parking, that they have, the method that they use to come up with 4, is that somewhere where a citizen could read an ordinance and realize that he should only have 4?
It is in the parking requirements where it specifies the number of spaces per square footage of the building as to how many spaces are required. That's what is in the Land Development Code, how many parking spaces are required for that particular use. Planning and zoning determined that they had 4 additional spaces over what was required for a gas station convenience store, and therefore made the assumption that since there were 4 extra spaces, they could park U-Hauls there because they weren't required by the convenience store gas station. The flaw was that it was a non-conforming use, and the expansion of the non-conformity should have been addressed at that time, and a site development order should have been required. And that's the conclusion that the administrative arm of the city came to between the initial notice of violation and the hearing today, is that this was a non-conforming use that should not have been allowed to expand without going through a site development order.
That avenue, to me, seems much more clear than
The site development order would then have memorialized whatever was allowed on the site and would be
Right.
enforceable, whereas a business tax receipt is not enforceable.
Right.
Putting 4 on the business tax receipt is not something we could
I agree.
enforce. Our notice of violation, I'm going to get ahead of myself, but just to clarify, our notice of violation required them to come to a pre-application meeting to discuss all this with planning and zoning and see how they could go about getting the site development order.
And then,
Or-
is the notice of violation for the expansion because it's non-conforming? Not for the 4, it's because they've expanded the uses?
Right. The notice of violation is that they need a site development order to have any U-Hauls on the property.
Okay.
So that's what they were cited for. So the code enforcement position is that there shouldn't be any U-Hauls there, none, 0. The
Until-
4 is non-enforceable. The second part of the violation was, or the correction option was for them to come to a pre-app to initiate a discussion on how to get where
Okay.
they needed to be.
All right.
So,
I'm going to go ahead and,
okay. So what you have in your packet, does Your Honor have the packet?
I do. Are you going to move
I'm
this
going to
in
go,
as the-
yes, I
positive
request to
today?
move that into evidence.
Is there any objection to this coming into evidence? Have you received a copy of this?
We have a copy.
Could the
No,
respondent?
she's going to give you everything that I'm going to present.
I'm going to give you a minute to look at that, and then you'll be able to tell me if you object to that coming into evidence. question is only, do you object to my looking at this and considering these pictures? You'll have an opportunity to talk to me about them, but do you have any objection to my looking at these? No? Okay, thank you. All right, this will be City's Composite Exhibit A.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, the first picture you see was taken on August 29th of 2013. You can see in the picture there are a variety of U-Haul trailers, U-Haul trucks, and U-Haul single-unit tow behinds. And in the first picture, there are three trailers, 3 tow behinds, and then across the parking lot you can see 2 trucks. This is another photograph of the same site on the same day, just a different, wider angle. And then also the third picture is taken on the same day and just showing a close-up of the vehicles, the trucks on the other side. This next inspection was on September 3rd of 2013. Again, you can see that the first picture shows 2 U-Haul trucks with a tow-behind unit behind the first truck. The next photograph shows a trailer in the foreground and a U-Haul truck, van-type vehicle. And then on that same date, looking across the parking lot, you see 6 U-Haul trailer units parked across there. And in the foreground there is the 1 trailer. And then this is in the back of the property. The next picture, there are 3 U-Haul trucks stacked one in front of the other. So obviously the photographs demonstrate that the number of 4 was clearly being exceeded. So on September 5th, notice of violation was sent to the property owner of record for violation of Section 1.5, which says everything must be conforming with the Land Development Code, and for Section 3.3, site development orders, and specifically for renovation, which constitutes any increase in square footage or increase in impacts, any change in use, and any other action or approval required by the land use administrator. The corrective action was to remove all the U-Hauls from the premises upon the receipt of the notice and until such time that they receive formal authorization and permission from the appropriate City of Oviedo department to have a specific number of U-Haul vehicles on the premise. This would be done through a site development order, and to attend a pre-application meeting with the City's Development Services Department by September 18th to discuss the use of their U-Haul rentals on the property. If they would have attended, they did not attend the September 18th or any pre-application meeting, nor did they schedule one, we would have obviously taken whatever came from that meeting, and code enforcement would have worked off the consensus and determinations from the other staff members as to how to proceed. But neither one of the corrective actions were taken, and thus, well, before I get there, we have the certified mail receipt and green card, and the track and confirm is from the post office, just showing the tracking. On September 6th, after the date of correction, we checked the property again. You can see that there are 4 U-Hauls in the first property. In the first picture, there are 4 U-Hauls that are parked across on the other side of the property, and then there are 2 U-Hauls up in the front of the property. On September 19th, we re-inspected the property, and again, you can see that there are 4 U-Hauls along the side of the property. There are 2 U-Hauls across on the far side of the property in the next picture, as well as 1 trailer in the foreground, and that prompted us to send the notice of hearing for this hearing today. You have the affidavit, notice of hearing, and affidavit of violation, and the notice was hand-delivered. It was also mailed.
So because it's a non-conforming can't say that there's a violation of the development order that exists.
Yeah.
The land development code.
The land development code,
Would then create the need to have a new.
if they never expanded, they would have simply been a non-conforming use. The city's position is that they expanded the use and the impacts on the property by adding an additional business, being the U-Hauls. That requires a development order, development permit. We know that that is not an overnight thing, so the corrective action was come and meet with city staff to find out what the requirements are for a site development order, and they will have to make a decision as to whether they want to pursue that or not, because obviously there's going to be money and other requirements that they'll have to bring the property entirely up to code.
Right.
The nonconformity, separate, we're not citing them for the nonconformity. The nonconformity says you can't increase the nonconformity in any way, shape, or form. That's separate. That's Section 7. We're not citing them for that. That's going to come into play when they come and try to do their site development order. That's why we gave them the option of coming and getting the information at the pre-application meeting, because it's going to be, it's not going to be as simple as a straightforward. If it were a conforming property and amending or updating their site development order would be different than a non-conforming property that doesn't have a site development order, now getting a site development order and being locked into that non-conformity situation. Right. Or being not locked in, but being affected by the non-conforming status.
So really it's the
they need to get a site development order to have the U-Hauls. If
because
they don't have the U-Hauls,
the number,
the number is irrelevant.
Is irrelevant.
Correct.
So whether or not there were more than 4, in
right.
my opinion, does not, that's not swaying me. But the changing, the addition of the
right.
U-Haul is what I'd like to.
That is code enforcement's position also, that the number is irrelevant. They need a site development order to add to the use of the property. And that is what we finally got planning and zoning on board with, to require the site development order. So yes, the number is irrelevant. Whether they want to have 1 or 101 will be determined by getting a site development order.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Just that this is a photograph this morning, and again, you can see the U-Hauls parked on the property, which code enforcement considers to be in violation since they don't have a site development order for the additional use of U-Hauls on the property. And then you have the chronological history for this particular case. Thank you.
All right. Gentlemen, could you step to the podium? And if you could identify yourself.
I am Mamdouh. Mamdouh Yusuf. I have gas station in the Ovido.
Are you the property owner?
Yep.
Excuse me. Not the property owner, the business
The business owner. I'm sorry.
Oh, the business owner. Okay. And if you could identify yourself, please.
Amir Gerges. I'm a friend, and I know him from church.
And you're here to interpret?
Yes, ma'am. If I can.
Sure. And are you comfortable with this, with us speaking through the interpreter?
Yes.
Okay. Were you able to hear what the city representative said about the property? Did you hear what the city said?
I heard it, but it had a lot of I tried to translate to him a little bit, but there was a lot of technical words, like
Right.
conformity. I have no clue what it means, so I couldn't interpret.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to tell me about why we're here? About the U-Haul trucks? Is there anything that you'd like to offer?
it's just a mistake that has some circumstances, if you want to hear it. So,
Yes. I want to hear whatever you want to tell me.
شو يعني هو بداية الأمر من حوالي أيام المدرسة دخلت كان في وير هاوس جنبي وقفل وحول
let me translate one sentence because he says like a whole story and it makes it hard for me.
Okay.
He says it started when he started this business like at the beginning of school, and as you know, the students move around and bring back their trucks. So that was one reason, like beginning of new school year.
Right. And are we talking about just the rental of the U-Hauls?
Yes.
That's what started?
Yes.
I was going to ask that. So that started about, when would you say, August?
Yeah, about August. That's when the exceeded number of trucks that the city noticed. That's around this time when the school started. That's one reason.
When did you first start renting U-Hauls?
That ended he said about October last year.
Okay. Go ahead.
لما في كان في وير هاوس جنبينا وقفل وعمل له موف وفي نفس الوقت كان عندنا شكل وحش بيعترف كده ان هو كان الشكل العام.
There used to be another warehouse in the area that closed down.
هز موف قفل في دخول المدارس.
At the same time, at the beginning of the new school year, so that warehouse when they closed down, that put more number over his business.
Right.
وبعد كده كان هو في ويك اند ولما يجي يخلصوا هم يجوا شالوا الشركيات شالت شويه والعمليه خفت بس احنا ما برضك قلنا ان هو كان لما يجي الوير هاوس قفل وكان في شغل بيزنس كتير بتاع الطلبه وكان المنظر العام مش كويس وكان في تركات بتتأجر كتير في الوقت دوت وكان ويك اند الشركه ما كانتش تقدر تيجي تاخد الحياه اللي هي
He says at the time he contacted the company and they after it was like a weekend and it was crowded as the gentleman spoke. It was over 10 and 12. That was true, but it was out of his control. It was the beginning of school year, and he contacted the company, the whole company, and they started moving the extra trucks from his business.
قلنا احنا ما نعرفش خطوره الموضوع دوت الا من 15 يوم ابتدينا نلغي اللي هو الويك اب اللي هو النزول عندنا في الجاز ستيشن.
He knew only about it about 15 days ago. About it's not supposed to happen. So he did every effort he could, contacting the company and telling them you have to remove the extra ones. And as of today, he says it looks good today. The last picture it's only four down to the legal number, which is 4. And he says he told me while we were sitting here, some customers trucks look like U-Haul, but actually they are not. Like the one in the picture here, it's a customer buying stuff from his business, like cigarettes or something.
Oh, right, that truck.
That looks like it belongs to U-Haul, but it's just a regular customer.
قلنا ان احنا خلاص دلوقتي يعني مش احنا لغينا يعني قلنا الشركه وقفت لان كل اللي بيجي من التلهانسي وبيجي من ميامي بتاع كان بينزل في اقرب مكان ليه فغصبا عننا لما بيحط المفتاح بره في التراك وبيسيبه ويمشي بالليل.
He says it was out of his control because U-Haul customers come at night while he's sleeping,
right.
And they drop the key in the box outside. Now after he contacted the U-Haul company, now they started making arrangements for other sites, and removing his name from like returns on their websites to drive customers to other places.
Right.
So he promises it's gonna he's gonna control it. Not to be more than 4. That's permitted by the city.
perhaps the city led you to believe that that would be okay to have this business as long as you had 4 trucks. I think that that was not your fault, that you were following the rules as best you could, and I want you to know that the number of trucks that you have on the property is not, in my mind, the issue. When you changed your business and created a new business on that piece of property, which was renting U-Haul trucks, that should have forced you to come to the city to look. Just like if you open a new business, you come and talk to the city and they tell you what you can and can't do, and you come up with an agreement, and you try to, and if you can't, you can appeal it, or you can, call a lawyer, which is not, I'm a lawyer, it's not a great solution, but when you started a new business, that's what changed. And so I regret that the city mistakenly let you open that business and think that 4 trucks was going to be okay, because now it appears that the violation was because there was more than 4, when really it's just the opening of a new business means that you have to come back and negotiate with the city about what's going to be done on the property. So I guess I need clarification from the city as to what. I'm not comfortable finding a violation because of the number of trucks, as I mentioned, because I don't think that should have ever been imposed upon the business owner. But is the city asking for an order for a meeting, a pre-meeting? Is that what? I'll let you speak.
Yes, Your Honor. The original items for correction would still suffice for the city, that they come to a pre-application meeting and initiate a dialogue with the Planning and Zoning Department as to the pursuing of a special, or as a site development order.
Can they get an exception for this?
Because of the non-conformity, I don't believe they can get a special exception use order. I think that, but that should clearly be brought out in the meeting and in the discussions. Yeah. So code enforcement's position is we would like them to come and meet with the city and find out all of their options. And then whatever the decision is within a certain time frame, they would have to abide by the city's decision, whether it's a site development order, whether it's a special exception use order, or whether it's no increase in the nonconformity. Whatever the city's determination is for planning and zoning, we'd want that in effect. But we're more than happy to give them the opportunity to come and have that pre-application meeting within a reasonable time.
Okay. And is 30 days a reasonable time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What I'm going to find is that I'm not going to find any violation or assess any fee. There won't be any. You won't be paying anything. But I'm going to. Go ahead. You can translate that. But I am going to find that you need to come and talk to the city about what needs to be done. But I'm going to give you 30 days to do that. So within 30 days, I would suggest within the next 5 or 10 days you call and make an appointment so that everyone is ready. But within 30 days you need to come into the city and talk to them about how we can get this fixed. Okay? So that will be my ruling, and I'll enter that order then after this hearing. All right?
Could we just look at the calendar and see if 30 days puts us before the hearing so that we could come back and report at the hearing?
I'm sorry. By October 23rd. So today is September 26th. Before October 23rd, you need to come into the city and have a meeting with them. Okay? And I'm going to send this to you in writing so that you'll have that. Okay? Okay. All right. Then that'll be the end. Thank you for coming today.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Jim Orioles representing the city in case number 13-1554. Has the clerk given you a packet of evidence, Your Honor?
I have. Are you suggesting that that should be moved into evidence as the city's composite Exhibit A?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Is there anyone?
Yes, ma'am, the respondent is here.
Okay. Does he have a copy of the packet? Let's give you that. No. I'm going to ask you if you have any objection to it, so if you could just take a minute and look at it. Thank you. I did think of that, but I appreciate it. Are you Mr. Miles? I don't think you were here when we did this swearing in, so before I ask you a question, can I get you to stand and raise your right hand and just do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give today will be the truth and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. And as to that packet, do you have any objection to that coming into evidence? No. Okay. Thank you. You can have a seat then. You'll be up next.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this case is 331 Reed Avenue in the city of Oviedo. The original violation was for a 2219, which is junk and debris, and Land Development Code 4.15A. The violation of the Land Development Code 4.15A has been corrected and will not be an issue with this hearing. On July 25th, Your Honor can see the pictures that were taken. It was noticed that there was a fairly large amount of junk and debris scattered throughout the rear yard of the property. This is a corner property, Your Honor, so it is visible from the side, plainly visible from the side street, and of course, being a chain link fence, it makes it even more visible. All the pictures were from the rear yard, and they were taken at the initial inspection on July 25th. We sent a notice of violation on July 26th, outlining the violations of 2219 and 4.15. And like I previously mentioned, the violation of 4.15 was corrected and is not an issue with this hearing. That notice of violation was received and signed for. We had a meeting on the property. I met with Mr. Miles and the tenant, or to be more precise, the tenant's daughter. There is a language issue in this property. The tenants do not speak English. However, their two daughters do. One daughter is approximately 17, 18 years old. And Mr. Miles and myself met with her on the property, and I pointed out the things that were in violation on the property. Some of those things were removed. Some of it, it's not a situation where nothing was taken care of. Some of the things were removed, and as you'll see on the pictures from this morning, some of the things are removed. It's not been 100% complete. Okay. On August 12th, I re-inspected, and Your Honor can still see that there's pallets, there's piles of debris, and various things put against the fence. Wheelbarrows full of debris, things stuffed behind the sheds. We sent a notice of hearing on August 14th, and that notice of hearing and affidavit of violation, notice of hearing was signed for, And on reinspection this morning, Your Honor can still see that there's various items against the fences covered by canvas. There's pipes, pallets, broken blocks, wood. Certain things on the campus, I don't know what they are. Behind the sheds is stuffed with various things, coolers and old plant tubs. And the last picture is just truck toolboxes back there.
So, in this picture, let me just grab it for the record, where it has the plants at the side of the shed, and there's the hoses are hanging.
Yes, ma'am. There's something on the, I don't know what it is on the canvas here. There's stuff stuffed behind the, I couldn't get a picture from the other side. There's stuff sticking out the other side too. There's various items that are stuffed behind the shed, or playhouse, I believe they call it.
So, let me look at the code. Some of this honestly looks, I mean, you can see that it's rubbish, but some of it looks a little bit like storage. So the violation here is because it's
I honestly don't.
this right here?
Yes, ma'am. Openly stored. I honestly don't know what some of that stuff is. I would have to get in and actually be able to take the canvas and the tarps off of things to see what some of that stuff is. There was some tires back there. I don't know if I can't really tell if they've been removed or not. Some of those big old plant pots have standing water in them.
Okay. Anything else?
No, ma'am. Just a chronological history. You can see it's been 63 days.
63 days from the initial?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Mr. Miles. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I don't think I had a choice.
What can you tell me about this?
I could tell you that I have clients, or should I say tenants, living there, been there several years, and they're pigs. I mean, it's about all I can tell you. It's a language barrier too. We've been out there. I've tried to cooperate, with code enforcement. I mean, I'm on the same side. Let's get them to clean it up. But it's how do I make them do it without me taking a dumpster in there and throwing all the crap in it? I don't know what to do at this point. They're obviously making efforts to correct some of the action. As you can see, the progression is actually, it still looks terrible. Pictures are make it look terrible, which I don't want anything in the yard personally, but
Right.
I can't judge how people live. In my opinion, a lot of this is judgment calls too, as far as what specifically needs to be gone and what doesn't. Ideally, we go to the property and take a little flag and say, this has got to be gone, 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 this has got to be gone.
But didn't you all have a meeting like that?
We've walked with the with the daughter. Again, there's a language barrier, and with the parent, with the family. I always use a translator anytime I communicate with them because I don't speak Spanish either. So it's trying to explain, okay, you can't have this here, you can't have this here. We just need to clean up general, and it's a situation where I'm trying to get them, and I feel like they feel like we're hassling them, but they need to be hassled, obviously. So I'm not against. I'm not against. I'm on the same side. I just don't know what to do.
Well, how long do you think, if you were to go back and tell them that this is going to end up resulting in a fine at some point, how long do you think that it would take you to get them to
I don't know because, I mean, we've seen progress. They've definitely gotten rid of crap. They definitely have.
I do see some progress. I'm glad, and I'm really glad that the 4.15 was corrected, so that was good there. I agree with you.
Well, you know, what, that was a, and I don't understand why this would be something you can't have. It was a carport that they put up. Why can't you have a carport? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So they moved it to the side of the house. So again, they get written up again. So they're frustrated because they buy this carport to put up there, and then they're told they got to take it down. So they move it to the side, and then they're told they got to take it down. So they get kind of a little upset about that because, I mean, logically, I don't understand why they can't have that either. It's a erected cover for a vehicle to go under, you know. But they did correct it. Correct? They corrected that. So I mean, to me, I feel like they're making progress. You know, they are pigs. You know, but
He's going to be on TV.
yeah. Where? Where's
Online.
Okay, good. Hi. But you know, it is what it is. I'm happy to try to help, and I'm actively trying to help too. I don't drive out to Oviedo often. The only time I'm over here is for this. I mean, really, I've had the tenants there for several years. Never had issues. They've been, you know, good tenants. They're good people. You know, they just happen to be.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell me?
What else? The officer Orioles had been with the problem. Can I ask you a question? Or okay. When you worked with them last time, okay, did you specifically show them this has to be gone, this has to go, this has to go? Okay. Right. 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 Okay. Right. Are you specific? Did they got rid of some of the bigger stuff, correct? Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Would you be willing to make another trip out and?
We do that today? Because I'm in, again, I don't drive over here very often. We've seen each other a couple of times, and you know I don't drive over here very often. This is actually my only property in Oviedo, so it's, of course it gives me problems.
Thank you for offering to do that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. But I don't know what else to say other than that's all I know. That's all I can do. I'm happy to help anyway. You know, I am trying to avoid any kind of problems in making them get corrective action without simply bringing a dumpster out there and throwing their stuff in there. You know, I don't know what else to do there. So.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to hear from the city what I'd like to recognize that they've made headway and that they're working on it. So with that in mind, I'd like to ask you what the city's request is. I can tell you that a $50 a day fine is very low, and so I appreciate that you requested that. And considering that it's been going on for 63 days, I'm inclined to go with 30 days to get it corrected. Also because it looks like it's close. The first two pictures from today, where you can see all the tarps and all that clearly, I think that even the tenant would have to understand that is debris in the yard. You know, when you see all the tarps, the first ones concern me a lot more than the later pictures, but I think that could certainly be done in 30 days. So right. But I think if you would agree to make a trip over, and since Mr. Miles is here, that would be great if you could do it today so that he could save a trip. And then I'll enter an order saying that it needs to be corrected before our next meeting, which is October. It needs to be corrected by midnight on October 23rd, or a $50 per day fine will begin the following day. So that will be my ruling. Thank you for being here today, Mr. Miles. Hopefully we can get this corrected. I won't see you again. You won't have to come back. Thanks. It's mutual. Thank you. All right. Do we have anything else today? Oh, we have a Massey hearing. No? What do we have? Old case.
Your Honor, again, my name's Sean O'Rourke. I'm the Code Enforcement Manager for the City of Oviedo, Florida. This case, CE 13-001408, is in regards to the property at 293 Crystal Circle in the city limits of Oviedo in Seminole County, Florida. Your Honor, basically we presented this case on August 22nd, 2013, where a finding of fact was issued. Since that time, the property changed from the Hamptons to SunTrust Mortgage to Fannie Mae before we could record the lien in the public record. I think it would behoove the city to just request that the order be rescinded and that we dismiss the case. It will cost us far more to pursue any kind of a fine on the property. Fannie Mae has already sent people out there to work on the property, and I just don't see us wanting to go through the legals of trying to pursue Fannie Mae.
I'm going to, since we don't have any notice, and I don't think that we need to have notice, I don't think we need to have a hearing. I'm not considering this a hearing, because you have if you want to dismiss, you certainly are able to dismiss. As I'm understanding it, you just would like me to rescind the order that was continuing.
Yes.
So
Well, we didn't continue it. We'd given them until midnight, September 25th, to bring the property in compliance, or a fine of $150.
Oh, this is not the one that we did last month? I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Am I doing the wrong one?
No, you're doing the right one. I'm looking at the wrong one. I thought that we were doing the one that you spoke of earlier about adding.
Oh.
Okay. So we're on CE 13-1408. Sorry. Okay. I apologize. Can we just completely start over, because I was listening to you thinking that we were talking about the one that you were going to dismiss.
This case in regards to 293 Crystal Circle. The case was presented on August 22nd of 2013. There was a finding of fact and conclusion of law issued. That finding of fact conclusion ordered that the respondent had until midnight, September 25th, to bring the property into compliance, and that failure to bring the property into compliance would result in a $150 a day fine. We didn't record this order because we were waiting for September 25th, but in between August, the hearing, and today, the property has gone from the Hamptons to SunTrust, who we cited, but from SunTrust to Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae has already sent people out there to start working on the property. I'm not inclined to, it's not totally in compliance, they are working on it, but I'm not inclined to have this fine that was issued against SunTrust go into effect. We haven't noticed Fannie Mae because of this existing order. So what I'm, and if you have a better solution, I'm obviously open to it, but my thought was rescind the order, dismiss the case, and then we can start anew with the new property owner if we don't see the continued progress. That was my thought. But again, we're open to whatever is the most appropriate solution to this.
And then you would just go back to square one?
Correct.
Completely with it. Okay.
Right. But again, they've already demonstrated that they're out there correcting violations and communicated with us, so I feel like we're not going to have that next violation. I feel like we're going to get compliance.
I'm in favor of just getting compliance. So absolutely, we don't have
We just try to figure out the logistics of how to make that order be appropriately dealt with.
I can understand.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Not on my game.
And then I don't know if you want me to readdress the property that we were going to request on behalf of the fire marshal that the case be dismissed. Do you want to restate all that?
This has not been, this is the one, this is no notice.
This has been, no, they received notice. It was brought to the last hearing. It was continued to a date uncertain. And yesterday, the fire marshal said that they are in compliance and requested that the case be dismissed. So on her behalf, I'm here to request it.
I'm glad. I was going to,
That was 1000 Broadway, West Broadway.
I'm glad that you brought it back because I don't like having an order continuing, at
No, that case
wherever
is,
without having a dismissal. So that's,
yeah, her case was brought into compliance to her satisfaction.
all right. And just for the record, that's CD 13-001-483.
For 1000 West Broadway.